It's a sort of running joke in some circles. Celebrities saying, if so-and-so wins the presidency, I'm leaving the United States. Those celebrities often don't leave. But we are seeing an actual uptick now in the rich and famous leaving the United States. One article says they're fleeing faster than ever before. I'm going to talk about why. I'm going to talk about where they're going. And I'm going to talk about why I think they're going to the wrong place. One of the things that we work with our clients here on is you don't just want to move everything from where you are to a new place. You want to take advantage of distributing your life, your assets, your business to whichever country in the world treats those assets best. Go where you're treated best. You can learn how we help you at nomadcapitalist.com/apply. If you have $1 million or more, we'd be happy to help you. But I want to share with you an article from the Daily Mail, this is in the UK, that says, meet the Donald Dashers, how the rich and famous are fleeing the United States in horror at President Trump, and Notting Hill is their #1 desired destination. This is not a political video from my perspective. I gave up US citizenship long ago. I don't have a dog in this fight. I called out Biden when Biden was in power about wanting to raise taxes and take your wealth. And I'm sure there's plenty of things I don't agree with Trump on, but I fundamentally believe while there can be events, for example, Donald Trump gets elected, you don't like that, that can be your wake-up call. But I like to take a long-term view. I think the United States, from a number of perspectives, is heading in the wrong direction. And so the question is, how do you respond to that as a long-term solution? My advice as someone who's lived overseas for a long time is not to move overseas just while Donald Trump's president. Now, if you believe that Donald Trump and maybe the next guy and maybe the guy after that could be problematic, at least have a plan B. Have a residence permit, have a second passport, have some money somewhere else. At least have a plan B. But if you're gonna have a plan A and actually move overseas, you wanna step back and think about where exactly you're going, because this article in the Daily Mail already starts off with some bias that somehow everyone's going to the UK. America's rich and famous are leading the charge out of the US and flocking to exclusive pockets of Britain in record numbers in a desperate bid to escape life under Donald Trump. So the theme here is a bit breathless. When we work with clients, they do have emotions, they do have feelings, whether people were frustrated during COVID, or people were rushing to reduce their taxes during the crypto boom, or now whether they're concerned about Donald Trump, or in other countries, people are worried about what's happening in the UK. People are leaving the UK, people are leaving Canada, people are leaving Australia, people are leaving a lot of places. What we hear is, yes, human emotion, but a desperate bid? No, because people know they have options now. That's why they come to Nomad Capitalist. We have more options than anybody else of places they can move. That's the point I'm going to share with you here. The increasingly volatile political landscape across the pond, this being in the US, most recently fueled by the Oval Office spat with Ukraine's President Zelensky, is increasingly leading to rich Americans fleeing, experts told Mail Online today. As an expert myself in helping affluent people with $1 million or more move, I will be combating some of the things in this article. This, coupled with America's strong dollar against the pound, which since this came out has been weakened a little bit, you're seeing the euro tick up and other currencies as well. It's making property investment more attractive to US families who are particularly making swift exits to London's prime areas such as Notting Hill, Kensington, and Hampstead. So right out of the gate, what have I told you for years? People go where they're familiar rather than going where they're treated best. My 5 magic words: go where you're treated best. Is the UK the best place to go? For people who may not be aligned with all of Donald Trump's policies, I can see why there are some things that are a bit more open in the UK. My philosophy has been, number one, you got a lot of different countries in Europe that have that same openness. You have some countries in Latin America, like a Uruguay, that have perhaps some of that same openness. And there's places in the world that we've tried to feature in Live Like a King episodes here on this channel, where they may not have it written down somewhere that there is tolerant, but on a day-to-day basis, they're going to be more tolerant than you might expect. And so I think people should look at that entire perspective. What do people do? They want the soft landing of going to a place that speaks English. There's a lot of places in the world that speak English. There's the UK, there's Ireland, there's Malta, there's Cyprus. There's plenty of English-speaking pockets in places all over Europe. Heck, Vilcabamba, Ecuador has a lot of English speakers. Malaysia, Singapore. I mean, English is spoken in a lot of places. The Philippines, all around the world. Maybe not exactly the way that you are used to it. But if you're going to the UK because, hey, they speak our language and it's comfortable, most of us are not actors who need to perform on a stage somewhere in London or be a 5-hour flight from New York. Most of us can go further afield. most of us can find a place that actually works for us. I don't think Notting Hill is the best place to go, but the Daily Mail says the so-called Donald Dash has been backed up by Home Office figures, which reveal that applications for UK citizenship soared in the last quarter of 2024, rising 40% year on year. So we posted earlier that more Americans than ever are applying for British citizenship. Here's where people in the media don't quite understand the difference. We've had a handful of clients over the years that are Americans living in the UK. They have a job, they started a business, they married somebody, for whatever reason, they're living there, and they spent the requisite number of years in the UK, and now they're eligible to apply for citizenship by naturalization. And it would appear that's what folks here are doing. I remember I interviewed someone a number of years ago, and they were Portuguese, but they lived in London. I said, how long have you lived in London? Like 20 years. I said, why haven't you applied for your citizenship? They're like, I just never thought about it. In my world, I want to apply for as many citizenships as I'm legally entitled to. If I'm qualified by living somewhere or through my ancestry, why would you leave any citizenships on the table? But a lot of people don't look at it like that. Now, the UK is more difficult for citizenship by descent. They have a double descent process that allows you to go a little bit further back. But in many cases, it's just, do you have British parents? And so if you don't, it's going to be hard to get UK citizenship for many people that way. But people who are already living in the UK, I imagine a lot of them were, hey, I'm an American, I can live here, whatever. I'm sure I'll always be able to renew my residence permit, which I don't put stock in. I think if you can get citizenship to get a higher level of permanency with your local affairs, that's a good thing to do. But I figure there's some Americans that now they're saying, you know what? I'd like to at least have a backup plan. And perhaps some of those Americans who become British or get other citizenships will do as I did, where I left the United States, I traveled around the world, I got some other passports, and eventually I said, you know what? I don't want or need the United States, and I gave that passport up. A British passport's not such a bad passport to have as a backup. Do I think it's the best? It's a good travel document. You can use it to live in the UK or the Republic of Ireland. Of course, you can no longer use it to live anywhere in the European Union, but I think that's what's happening. And so what my advice to some of those folks would be is if you're going to get your British citizenship by naturalization, now that the UK has ended its non-dom tax program, perhaps you ought to look at using that new British passport to be able to move, as of right, to the Republic of Ireland, which still has a non-dom program. That's one place you do not need a residence permit to move, and you could dramatically lower your taxes in the coming years. You could also move anywhere else on planet Earth. And then you could decide, if I'm a dual British US citizen, do I want to keep that US passport? And if so, for how much longer do I want to keep it? And what is it that would trigger me to get rid of that US passport? So this is not necessarily a matter of people moving to the UK. People do not compartmentalize this. Yes, there are celebrities, as this article says, Ellen DeGeneres and wife Portia de Rossi. Designer Tom Ford, one of my absolute favorites, Hollywood star couple Ryan Gosling and his wife Eva Mendes, the article says, have fled the United States for the UK. And that's fine. If they're not entitled to British citizenship, I'm not sure if any of those people are British citizens. I know Tom Ford had lived there at one point. Maybe they can go through the process of qualifying. Now, my argument would be, if you're going to move somewhere in Europe, why not move somewhere that has a tax incentive? Examples include Ireland, Malta, Cyprus, Italy, Greece, even Spain and Poland to some degree. Why not move there? And so the aforementioned Republic of Ireland, if you are looking to get a second citizenship, you can move there, and after 5 years of residence, you can apply for citizenship. That not only allows you to live in the UK, because the UK and Ireland have that special agreement that predated the EU, but you also have the ability to live in the EU. Now, I'm not saying the EU is the place to go, but I understand if you haven't lived outside of the United States, it may be a softer landing. Listen, I'd love you to come to our live event, Nomad Capitalist Live. It's here in Kuala Lumpur. And see, I think this is a better place to live than a lot of places in Europe. If you don't need to be a 5-hour flight from New York, if you don't need to have a stage you can act on, if you just want to live a peaceful life and run your business from somewhere, come to Nomad Capitalist Live. Tickets go on sale April 15th. We've got the biggest waiting list ever. People are waiting to get in, nomadcapitalist.com/live. So I think that just people are doing it the wrong way because they hear the UK. Maybe if you're an actor, you think, oh, you know, Kevin Spacey was famously a resident of the UK and he worked on stage shows there. Most of us aren't doing that. One Notting Hill estate agent who revealed the amount of wealthy American families they are moving in has skyrocketed since Trump. We moved a Marvel actress into a very house near here in the last week. Here's what I'll tell you, and I am in this business, and we see ebbs and flows. I will tell you, we've been working with some wonderful people who are frustrated with where the US is going. And I think we've historically been thought of as a more conservative company. I'm a pretty libertarian guy. I don't like politicians on either side. I don't trust politicians on either side, particularly in a country like the United States or any other big legacy brand, high tax country. And so is interest skyrocketing? Sure. That will happen for a while. There are ebbs and flows. That interest does not always translate into closed deals. Sometimes just a lot of people who are scared, and once the emotions subside, they just go back to their normal lives. No matter where you're leaving, you've got to ask yourself, if this is going to improve in 4 years, am I looking for a place to live temporarily and then I'm going to come back? That's a different strategy. I would want a plan B in that case because, if it can happen once, it'll probably happen again. And I would say that whether you're on the left or the right, I said that when people were worried about COVID and their loss of freedoms during COVID. And now many of those people have just moved back to where they were from and figured, hey, that won't happen again. Yeah, I'm sure it will eventually. If you have issues with Donald Trump, do you think these issues are going to go away when Donald Trump's gone? I mean, Donald Trump reflects the country like a mirror. These things will keep going. What's given me a lot of personal peace is saying, I'm going to detach from the entire situation. I'm going to make a life somewhere else. And what I've done is I've sort of floated above the places where I'm at. I go and live my life. I don't get into local politics. I don't stick my head into that stuff. I don't, need to go somewhere and give my opinions on how they run the country on a political level. I just go and I live for myself, and I try and contribute in my own personal ways to the society. That's a strategy that I think is worth it. Rather than saying, I'm going to go somewhere for 4 years under Donald Trump, have something permanent. If you want to move for 4 years and then somebody that you like gets elected 4 years from now, you want to move back, great. But I want to have that second passport. I want to have that place that I can live. And if for you that's Europe, well, the UK is probably not going to give you as many options because you got 2 countries you can live in. Right, home countries of the UK excluded, 2 sovereign countries, the UK and Ireland. That's where you can live as a British citizen. Now, claim that passport if you're already living there. If you're an American, like, I never needed to be British, claim the passports you're entitled to. We help clients claim passports through Citizenship by Descent. That's the only service we offer a la carte at nomadcapitalist.com/CBD. If you have ancestors from Ireland or Slovakia or Poland or Hungary or elsewhere in the world, Latin America, we can help you get that passport. Claim that if you can. If you live somewhere and you're eligible to naturalize, claim that. But if I'm starting fresh, UK versus Ireland, I'm choosing Ireland. Easier to immigrate to, better taxes, and when I get that passport a lot faster, that's going to be easier for me to move to other places that when whatever happens that I don't like in that country that I'm in, I can move to any number of other places. If you're an American, hey, moving from California to Texas or Texas to California, as it may be, somewhat kind of similar to, I'm going to get an Irish passport, but then if I don't like what's happening, I can always go to Portugal or Spain, or perhaps if I'm more conservative, I can always go to Poland or Hungary. I have those options. The UK is not going to give that to you. We help a lot of very wealthy people get Maltese citizenship by donation. It costs you about $1 million for your family, and it's going to basically cut the wait time down to about 18 months with no real need to move anywhere beyond a matter of weeks. We have a lot of folks doing that because that gets you the same access to the European Union that Ireland or Spain or France would. And then you can just simply go and live in any of those EU countries without having to naturalize, without having to have any descent. That's a country where you could go and live on a tax-friendly basis, and they might be more of what you're looking for. They might be more of an open society than the US, but it's not a place where you're going to easily naturalize, because as much as they say you can apply for 5 years, what we've learned is that generally speaking, you're going to have to live there for 18 years before you actually get naturalized. That is the general experience. So if you're looking to be naturalized, a tax-friendly, more open place like Ireland is going to be a better fit for you to get a passport by naturalization. If you don't want to have to live anywhere and wait around and you want the passport for that plan B now, Malta, for example, could be a good option if you don't have ancestry. So that's what I think about moving to the UK. I'm going to share with you another story about another celebrity that's moving. Let me go through the strategies here. Number one, you want to move your money somewhere. I don't trust any of these politicians. I said during the Obama and Biden years, what happens if they force you to turn, let's say, your retirement account into US Treasuries to prop it up? By the way, sounds like something Trump might do also. I would like to have some money somewhere else. I would like to have some kind of asset protection structure. If I'm living in the UK, banking is not going to be as good as it could be in, let's say, Singapore. So I would look at having a place where I can put my money. Is that simply a retail or a priority or a private bank account? Or am I putting that in some kind of bank account plus holding company for estate tax purposes plus offshore trust structure? Depends on how much money you have. Where's your money going? That's step one. Number two, move somewhere that serves you and let it serve you. Again, if you're going to live somewhere in Europe, pick a place that has a tax deal for foreigners and pick a place that has a path to naturalization. If you're going to move, get the benefits of moving. International schools for America Ferrera, there's international schools everywhere in the world. I mean, I've literally been in Cambodia and I toured many years ago. What do the international schools look like? I bet in Cambodia they're not as good as in the UK, but I think in Malaysia they're as good as they are in the UK. And that to me wouldn't move the needle. We do a lot of research on international schools here. So number one, move your money somewhere. Number two, move somewhere that serves you. Be honest about yourself. Again, if you don't need to be acting on a stage somewhere to make money, if you just run a business or if you have a portfolio, you don't need to follow the herd of people who need to be on an acting stage somewhere. And then three, get your citizenship. Here's an article from Metro in the UK about Rosie O'Donnell. Rosie O'Donnell has moved to Ireland. She apparently has Irish grandparents, and she's now going through the process, the article in Metro says, of claiming her Irish citizenship. So she's lucky that she has those grandparents and she can claim that. I've had the idea for a long time, looking at celebrities who are entitled to citizenship by descent, it would appear. Why don't those celebrities get that? And the answer is the average person, especially living in the United States, is not thinking, why do I need an extra passport? I've had the idea that if I'm Bill Gates and I'm donating money somewhere, or I'm Elon Musk and I'm opening a factory somewhere, I'd say, hey, listen, I'll open a factory in your country, but I want citizenship. Most of these people don't think about it that way, but now they are. And we had people, more so on the right during the COVID times, coming and saying, my goodness, I gotta have a second passport. I can't be a slave to my country. Now we see people in the United States, my goodness, with Trump, I gotta have a second passport. So, citizenship by descent, if you're Rosie, go through your family tree. 1, 2, 3, 4 generations, depending on the country. You go to nomadcapitalist.com/CBD for that. So that's the third part. Move your money, move somewhere that serves you, get citizenship somewhere. If you're Rosie O'Donnell and you can get Irish citizenship by descent, you don't have to move to Ireland. You can if it serves you. But if you live in Spain, once you're an Irish citizen, you simply say, I'm going to go and register in Spain as an Irish citizen because they're both within the EU. And so people look at it as I have to do everything in one country. I have to move to a place where I'm following the herd. And then I have to live where I have citizenship. And then I have to bank where I live. No, you should be separating all of those things and you should stop following the herd. One thing where we talk about this is at our live event, Nomad Capitalist Live. Again, tickets going on sale April 15th. Get on the waiting list for that at nomadcapitalist.com/live. I think that when situations like this happen, people say, oh, you don't like Trump? I don't like Trump. Let's go to the same place. No, we've helped clients move to 31 different tax-friendly countries. And we have a network of lawyers and real estate agents and all sorts of professional tax people all over the world that we coordinate with, where you might come to us and say, hey, listen, here's what I want to accomplish. Here's what I have. There might be unique things in how your business is run or kind of assets in your portfolio. It's like, oh, you shouldn't move to this country. For example, people move to Dubai. I've said, oh, if you have royalty income or if you have certain dividend income, Dubai could be the worst place to move to from a tax perspective. And we've seen people, oh, Dubai is tax-free. Not for you, it's not. Not for entrepreneurs anymore who run active businesses. So people have these ideas in their mind. What I try and do is give people the global perspective. I've been to over 100 countries in the world. I've lived in, depending on how you count it, 12 of them perhaps. I have homes and bank accounts and all sorts of stuff all over the world. And I don't think you should just go to the UK because that's what people are doing, or because, hey, they speak English, or because, oh, I think I can get my citizenship there, my whatever. You want to look at these things holistically. If you've got $1 million or more, you go to nomadcapitalist.com/apply. If you earn $500,000 or more and you're not at that net worth threshold yet, you can also go to nomadcapitalist.com/apply. And you can see how we do a holistic plan. There are people in the UK, like this estate agent, who are saying, yeah, we're getting lots of people calling us. Before you tie up all your money in property in the UK, understand what all the options are. What will cost you $10 million in the UK, you can probably get for $1 million in some countries that are just as open, just as non-judgmental. The people are probably kinder. The weather's probably better than the UK. Now, you may not like all those countries, right? For me, my place in Asia is Malaysia. You might say, hey, listen, that doesn't have everything I'm looking for. Okay, that's fine. We all have different needs and wants. But as someone who is currently undoing a multi-million-dollar property deal for a place I thought I'd want to spend more time, and now I realize, you know what, this isn't it. Before you do that, talk to people who have experience working with thousands of clients doing this. nomadcapitalist.com/apply is where you go. Do not follow the herd. If the UK is the place for you, so be it. It's not the easiest place to immigrate to, quite frankly. In fact, I think there's a way for some of these actors, but I wonder how some of these people saying they're moving to the UK, you don't just turn up and live there. You have no right to live there beyond a tourist visa if you are American, Canadian, or anybody else other than British and Irish. You can't just turn up. You need a residence permit. And so for some people, you may not even qualify for a residence permit to live in the UK. So that could dash your plans right away. But if you are someone who wants to flee your country, and I would say, quite frankly, methodically leave for good reasons is a better way to say it, then we can help you do that. But you don't want to follow the herd.
This is Bali. Is how to live like a king.